or at least we're seeing you in your car there. Just quickly, you're here talking in what capacity?
As a custodian.
You're talking as a custodian.
And as a person that roams the Kosciuszko National Park and takes people on horse rides through the tourist business.
So you've got a cultural representation, you're saying, and an economic representation.
This is not about. Hang on. This is not about me. This is about the brumbies and about the aerial culling in the Kosciuszko National Park, and I'm not going to steer away from that.
All right. Well, that's why this committee is taking evidence. That's exactly what it's all about. But what I'm doing is asking you in relation to your representation. You say that you're a Narrigo, get it right. Narrigo horseman. What does that actually mean, a Narrigo horseman? I don't actually understand that terminology.
Well, I'm a Narrigo man, and a proud Narrigo man. I train horses, and I train brumbies as well. So obviously, I'm a horseman.
Do you own horses?
And that's can't be. Yes, I do.
You do. You do own horses. Okay. Are you recognised by the Narrigo Indigenous Corporation?
Yes, I am.
You are recognised. Did you not, in fact, resign from that corporation in February last year?
Is this about me, or is it about the brumbies and the management of the national park?
I'm just asking the question in relation
to
yourself.
Has that got anything to do with you?
It's got everything to do with the evidence that you're giving.
I know. Where? Hang on. No. Where did you get that information from?
You're here to answer questions, not ask them. And the reality is this. You're here representing the Narrigo Corporation.
No. Point of order, Chair. Sorry,
Mr. Wilesmith. There's just been a point of order taken.
Point of order. So the member should also be aware that Andrew Thaler is in the room and has been passing Mr. Borsak information. So that might be useful for Mr. Wilesmith to have some context.
Well, Mr. Wilesmith can have all the context, but he's still required to answer the questions.
No. But I'd also ask that if, when he's put questions put to him, that he's actually allowed to.
I'm giving him plenty of opportunity to answer them. And what he's doing.
All right, Mr. Borsak, I'll answer your question. I'll answer your question. The person that you got that information off, he's been on social media defaming people's character, and the only reason he got that information is from my ex-partner, who's a disgruntled ex-partner, and there's a legal proceeding taking place. I'll take a point of order,
Chair. I think we're now delving into areas that are well outside the.
Yeah. I agree. I think we've moved well beyond the terms of reference.
I'm asking. I still haven't answered my question to the point of order.
There was a follow-up point of order
I was
from
simply
Mr.
going to say,
Bob
notwithstanding the provenance of the information, the questions are directly relevant to the terms of reference of this inquiry.
The answers and the position we've been moving to now are not directly relevant to the terms of reference of the inquiry. But Mr. Borsak may continue his questions.
Well,
but I remind
Mr. Wilesmith is representing himself here as a representative of the Indigenous owners of that part of the park, perhaps, and other areas. And I asked him simply, on what basis of fact does he do that? And he hasn't answered the question.
You may put the question to him.
I get permission from the elders to do so, Mr. Borsak.
So the overriding economic value of horse trekking, and I'm not saying it's worth nothing, I think it's an important contribution to the activities of the park, isn't your primary concern then?
I strongly oppose your accusations.
Well, I actually do have a copy of an email you sent to the Minister's office where you were complaining about the loss of income. And that, I'm not saying that complaint is not valid, but I think we need to understand exactly where you're coming from and what are you actually trying to say. Is it income?
What I'm trying to say?
Or is it Indigenous representation?
What I'm trying to say, that letter was sent to the Minister as a personal letter from myself. It was written by me personally, and it had nothing to do with anyone else. Okay? It was my way of trying to get the government to see reason. And obviously you don't see reason. So here we are. Okay? And I prefer that we stick to the facts of what I've spoke about. I'm not getting involved in legal proceedings because they're ongoing.
Well, you
And
said,
Mr. Thaler needs to...
you signed off the letter as a proud Ngaro horseman, a director of the NNIC. Yet
Exactly.
I've got information that you actually resigned from the NNIC in February 23. This letter's dated 1st of November 23.
Mr. Borsak, Mr.
misrepresented
Borsak, how
yourself,
did that
did you?
come into your... No, I did not. And how did you come to obtain that letter? Because that was a personal letter to the Narrego elders. And that letter was handed to Mr. Thaler by a disgruntled ex of mine, okay? And that proceeding is still going to court as we speak, and I will not be speaking on it any further. Does that answer your question?
Well, you actually haven't addressed the answer, but I'll move on.
I have answered your question.
I'll move on.
We'll move on to the next question.
Is it true that you resigned in February 2023 from the Ngaro Corporation?
Yes, I've sent a letter to the elders, yes.
And on
And
what
it's up
basis
to the
and why
elders
did you
whether they
resign?
accept. Hang on. Okay? You asked the question, you let me answer it. Okay? I sent that to the elders, and it's up to the elders whether they accept it or they don't. Okay? And Narrego business has got nothing to do with the government or anyone else.
Well, it seems to me,
Can I just make
Mr.
that?
Wilesmith?
Can I make that loud and clear to you?
sorry?
Can I make that loud and clear to you?
Well, you
I've
can
just
make it
answered
loud
your
and clear,
question.
but whether that's an answer to the question I've asked doesn't actually
Well, I've just
enlighten me in
answered
any
you.
way, shape
Has
or
it
form.
got anything? Has it got anything
It seems to
do
me
with
that you may
Well,
well
it's
be in
between-
your letter
it's
to the
between me
minister
and the elders.
misrepresenting yourself as a representative
No,
of the
I wasn't.
Naro
I
Indigenous
wasn't.
Corporation, from which you had already resigned.
That's not right.
How can you complain
No,
about
I
having no
hadn't.
consultation in this process when you, in fact, are not a representative of that corporation?
Yes,
I don't
I am
believe-
the
point
Narrego
of order.
horseman, and they see me as that.
Point of order. I don't believe that Mr. Wilesmith indicated that he made that representation as part of that corporation. I believe he made it as a traditional custodian of the land, which he has every right to claim.
Well, everybody down there can claim to be a traditional owner and custodian of the land, even if they're not recognised by Ngaro Corporation. Is that what you're suggesting?
I didn't suggest anything, Mr. Borsak. I'm just saying that
Well, that's what you're suggesting.
Well, I'm saying that Mr.
You got a point
Wilesmith.
of order?
Well, I'm just making the point of order that that's not what he said.
I think we've strayed well beyond, again, the terms of reference. We've asked the same question over and over and over to Mr. Wilesmith. I suggest that if there are further questions in regards to the terms of reference, then we move on to those, please.
Well, to the point of order, Chair, I think it's highly relevant when a member of the public turns up here to give evidence purporting to represent an Indigenous corporation and gives evidence that they weren't properly consulted, that they have some bona fides to that effect. And it seems to me that we're not seeing any bona fides here from Mr. Wilesmith.
Look,
And I'll rest on that.
what I will say, though, to that point of order is that you have put those questions multiple times. What I have heard from Mr. Wilesmith is that some of these aspects have something to do with a court case that's ongoing. And I've also heard Mr. Wilesmith say that, and talk a little bit about his position within resigning, but also still being a traditional owner of the land. And I think that that's been clearly made evident by the witness that is here.
To the point of order, Chair, you can't just make an assertion and expect it to have the same weight in evidence.
But what I'm trying
But
to
you can't
say,
back
Mr.
up.
Borsak, is that you've made your point, is that you've asked those questions,
I'll-
those questions
I'll
have
go
been
to it. I
put,
can
and
go
I
to
don't
another
think you're
point.
going to get any further information.
I can go to another point. Mr. Wilesmith, did you in fact promote a fundraising campaign that sought to raise money because you were going to put an interlocutory injunction against the federal and state governments in relation to this program of culling?
Yes, that's correct.
That's correct? You did? So
Yes.
how much money